This is Gerald Tuan van Waas at the educational channel of demonstrations regarding letter meanings, letter combinations, letter coordination also. Each letter can be put into a category in which we coordinate ourselves, and these letters are meant to show positions, to show you where changes appear, or they are meant to make you do a certain change or change your ideas about things and change your position towards things. Actually, the whole set of rules that are used for these coordinations are actually exactly the same and can be derived to how a bird of prey follows its prey and try to catch its prey and succeeds to catch its prey. For this, it will set in motion a whole set of coordinates. And he also uses the three sorts of coordinates that you can use to follow, to trace, to track, and to match the prey into the catch. These three coordinates I will explain today how different they are and how they fit with letters. And our mind itself, I already explained it a lot of times, actually follows these rules automatically, and it's actually the only set of rules which are used to coordinate ourselves the whole time in time, space, or in interaction. That's all is needed as impulses, and these impulses are translated into letters. These letters are used to make you follow these impulses. We're not conscious about the system, but it took me some time to figure it out. But it's clear to me that our brain follows these rules and follows these coordinates and very quickly as well. As quickly and as automatically as a bird can follow its prey and can catch it. We could do that as well. So here we will follow the three sorts of coordinates that are used to track down prey. Language itself is working in the same way that we have a goal that we set up and we want others to understand a thing, understand which directions it goes, and also expresses our thoughts, how we want the others to follow it, and also make some minor changes towards it so that they can follow the logic that we build up around it. This is the same thing. So of course we first start with taking out the elements. That's the first thing you need. You want to take out the elements, and the element is the object and the position in space. And for this we need 3 dimensions of space. So that's our first thought. We have an idea. That's our idea. There is the idea, and that's it. That's the basics of all of it. And then we think that we can also pinpoint the idea, bring it into communication and say that's it. But maybe it doesn't stay there. Maybe it is already something different. It changes. So it's not 100% all the time. That's already one of these situations where you have that steady space is limited, by just naming the thing and thinking that we know where it is will be enough to use it and so on. And the object of our reference is now the mice, and we put it onto a steady place and we think, yeah, we have it. Do we catch the prey in this way? Can we catch the prey? Can we know where it is and then always know where it is? At that point where it stands still, it is possible. Then we know where it is, we know what it is, we know its behavior, we know everything, we think to know everything. But what if the mice starts to run? At that point, the three-dimensional space will not be enough. It will even not be useful anymore, but it will, because the thing that we thought had a steady place moves away out of our focus of three-dimensional space. It's no longer there where we expected. So our steady mind of a fixed idea, a fixed place, a fixed definition, it no longer works. It's getting already somewhere out of reach. That's where we need also another option to bring us to actually also to the next set of dimensions. We can also follow where things are going. So we need another three-dimensional reference point of the changes of where things are going. This is a different focus. Instead of focusing on what it is or what it not is, we could also focus on, yeah, but if it's not what it is, if it is different, where is it different? How did it become different? How is it becoming different? And how much is it becoming different? Or where is it going? How is it changing then? What is different? So we finally start to follow the path of adaptation to what it really is. We have an extra dimension of time that we use for it to follow the changes. And this is the second set of dimensions that we need. These are the extra set of dimensions which appear in time, in a reference point in space, in all three dimensions. So that we can more or less estimate in which directions a change is happening in time, in space, in all directions. So can we now catch the mice? Just imagine that the mice is correcting its changes, anticipating to each reaction, action or reaction, so that we have to correct during our following of the trace. It's already much more complicated because we no longer follow a fixed trace of changes. This fixed trace is in change itself, and that's already too complicated. It's changing the whole time. The change is changing as well. The only option would be that we ourselves also make a change and change accordingly, so that we anticipate. We anticipate. What's the best way to anticipate? To make it so that the amount of changes will be for us as little as possible. Not that we follow all the complexity and all, no, that is as little as possible. So that we have a 0 point at the end, so that is as least movement as possible, so that we can go back to the steady space, so that we have what we want to have, that we can name what we have, and that we can catch the thing, that we can grasp the thing. That's basically the three regions of thinking, of coordinating that you need to use in letters. And there are 3 categories in letters, there are 3 categories in orientation. It's the same thing. We start from a fixed point somewhere, the number 1. From this number 1, we will adapt to its changes, so this will be no longer our fixed point of number 1, but this will be the fixed point of changes, the x, let's say, the multiplication, all kinds of connections, of course, and then the last point of reference will be not the number 1, not the multiplications, but the least tension, the 0 point of interaction. So simply following the moves alone and the changes was not enough. We have to participate into all the changes so much that there is as little of differences between what we focus upon and the changes it makes, so that we are almost on the same page, let's say. So let's go through this whole process a few times, that we get used to it, and I also tell you where it comes from, and what kind of letters are used there, and what these letters mean. I will not tell all the letters. This is about space, so I'll take out the letters that are directly influenced onto a position on space, and I will tell you what the other letters are. So it is the same thing, it's the same kind of thinking of processes, of dealing with process and anticipating in everything what we see and notice, follow up, intercommunicate and anticipate towards. We start from then the steady object number 1. Our definition is that already we expect it there at the number 1, so we already have it. There is, but it will always be an estimation, the A. If we succeed to grasp it, we can take it out, and we have the T. If we miss the point, it will be the K, because it's already directing away from us, or it's a little bit different. It's at the diagonal stage. And now where this comes from, this idea comes from, of course it comes from a theory, and this theory says that it has an order of letters, and this order of letters is numerological, it's also geometrical. So actually A, T and K are the same thing as the cross points of the coordinates that we generally name as X, Y and Z, the on the horizontal, vertical and diagonal plane. These are the starting points of our reference. The other letters, I'll quickly tell you, U, L and B are at the same place where the volume is already growing and getting bigger. You have the U, L and B, bigger in the center, bigger at the vertical place, so it is then at the extended areas, and the diagonal plane is where it is already changing. It's there where you also see the volume changing. When you focus on the limits themselves, so you say, okay, I'm not sure until where I can see it from my center point of vision. There you have the C. It's the realization where you can put your limits. And I will tell you something about this number is C, because we need the letter C for our attack. So within the space we can have, of course, the references from the thing itself, but it's basically we want to do something in space, so we project our own wishes and our own directions in space directly towards the one, towards what we want to achieve. It's like a projection of what we want, and therefore the A will participate in the space. We will make our own choices in space, and we will act within the same space with all the A, T and K within our attack we will use the same space to project, and it will not change the position of the object 1, but we can project towards it, that we can try to see it. And if we are getting near in the vertical plane, we are at it. And when we follow the breaking point of where we will almost catch it or not catch it, get the idea or get not the idea, or estimate it or not estimate it, or estimated it partly, that then we will have the letter K there. And the C is this position that we already know that it will be somewhere in the whole space. Let's try to estimate its angle. In its full space, its angle, that we know we will can use it somewhat, we will approach it somewhat, and we will lose it somewhat. Let's try to see the middle focus. That's the C. C will be the middle focus. Middle focus will be the coordination of the angle of attack. That's the angle of attack. So you have the at, and then the K at the other A approach from the mice itself. That will be our focus in space. But of course, in space, we will first have to face reality, and the reality in space has always a sort of tendency how it behaves in this reality, in this three-dimensional space. And this is very important because it's a level of understanding that only exists on this level of space. I will tell you what it is. Let's go to the number 1 and see how it behaves, and then how we can approach it. So we have here the number 1 object of focus, our goal, which we approach with A, which we can use with T if we can take something out, and it will move into its own position. It will be a bit less than we expect. That's the case. So there will always be a part that we miss. We follow it for a part with A. We can use it until a certain degree, and we also will miss it to a certain degree. Reality is a focus upon what also about an estimation what we can achieve now at this point here in space, that kind of estimation in 1. But these 1, 2, 3 positions will always be there. We think we can confirm what we see in A by estimation. We think we can always use it in T. And we will always experience it how it really is. And in a way, it also says, it will tell you also how much we are at it or off it with K. The C itself knows these 3 positions, and so it takes the middle of it. So it will deal with it in its full space, that every position has the A position, the T position, the K position. It takes the middle of it and says, okay, I'll try to estimate how much we estimate it, how much we can use it, and how much we miss a part, and that's facing the reality of it. So when we are at it, you see it in the blue part, then you find the 1. In our attack, with a little bit luck, the C will estimate its angle of attack, and we will already be able to estimate it. But in reality, we have to deal with much more than the attack alone, because the attack is a very selfish goal. It's actually the estimation, which sees that the K is going into a different direction, and it's mad, it wants to have it. That's not the kind of attack that we want to achieve it. We want to understand it. No, we want to have it. We want to control the K. We want to control the breaking point. We want to control what we lose. We want to win what we lose. That's why we attack. We attack the goal, number one, because we want to find its position. We want to find the angle. The angle is not going the way like we expected it to be, but we try to estimate the angle. We try to estimate the angle of attack. What will happen in reality? The reality will be, our starting point is the mice. The mice will be estimated in space. Estimated in space, the A will try to follow it. The T will try to take out what can be used from it. In reality, it's just it's a point of notice, and the reality will actually be this whole process in 3 dimensions is that you will see only a part of it, and you only have to more or less learn to estimate what is this part, what do we really have. And what don't we have? The part that we don't have, actually we could follow as well if you would like to. Just imagine that we say, we know we lost it. If we have a realization that the estimation is always limited, we have a limited way to express ourselves with one. With our definition, it's very limited. It's never one. It's always a little bit more, a little bit less. The K will go also a little bit. It's always off a little bit. We always will lose it some way. Let us just think, why shouldn't we just simply follow where it is off? And we can still grasp it then maybe. Let's follow it where it's off. Because we know it's off. It's off. And it's going somewhere else. It's evolving to something else. It's changing. It's different. So of course there is a way to track it. And how can we track the K with CK? How can we track the movement and succeed? The movements. Simply try and start from the movements itself, because with the K alone we miss a part. With the A alone we estimate only partly wrong, and with the T we cannot notice everything. But when we change this into following also the movements, the changes themselves, when we have a mindset and we say, okay, I will go from here and see where it goes, and I will follow the movements, I will follow its changes. Then there are a couple of letters that fit that. It's the N, where you include even what you can follow longer. You try to estimate it during the schedule of time. You can start to discover what, not just what I can use, but its usefulness. What is it used for? What will it be used for? So because it's already in a different direction, what is it actually used for? And the why is the changes of direction, not where it changes from you, it changes away from you, but in which direction is it going? We can still estimate it and follow it. So by following the movements and change, we no longer follow the one, but we follow the connections. We make connections, we follow the connections, we continue to follow these connections and make the estimations how it is. So the steady object is the only thing that tries to estimate its position from our definition. Now these definitions are slightly changing and adapting towards bigger connections. That's more or less what it is. And there is a theory behind it. And this theory, I'll put it again, this is the second part of the theory. So the A, T and K, they were the cross points of the steady coordinates in space. The next level that you can use of starting points in this second set of spatial references, these spatial references were involved in time. All these spatial references were about movements. So all these movements were changing the whole time. So they were moving coordinates. So these are the cross points of moving coordinates. With the D we can follow how much we can use over time. The Y we can follow the target the whole time, which is going away. And with the N we can also follow the target by in a confirming way. It's a horizontal, so we try to confirm, we can still follow our path, and we can still follow everything with which we can add there. That's the end. So letters here can be used. The other letters that you can see here, the O, E, Z, we are the volume that is created from there, and the G, P, F and P, we don't need that here. It's also the estimations, how far we can go with this. This will take us too far here. We're concentrating on the starting points, how we can follow the middle starting point in movement. Here we still are trying to catch the mouse. So we follow the steady movement somewhere in space that is moving, and we can find its direction. So we have in the Y, we have the direction. But what if this mice is also clever? This mice also uses its anticipation and finds a way to react to its environment and changes in its movement the whole time. If you want to continue to try to follow changes, it's too complicated. You can't do that. The only thing you can do is anticipate with it. To try to anticipate as much as the mice moves, you have to move as well. You have to move as well. It's not just your focus. What I sometimes told before, it's not just your focus. It's you have to change your focus and yourself. You have to change your mindset. You have to change everything of making a position where it is and anticipate with it. What's the reason for this? Is that there is now not that you don't have to follow all the movements that are there all the time. No, there are too many movements already. Try to follow with as little movements as possible. So with a 0 point in the middle. The 0 point is the balance, so we find a balance. The trick to anticipate is anticipate so much that there will be a 0 point in the middle. With the number 1 as a starting point, we only knew what is it and where is it. With the x or multiplication in the middle, we see how well are the changes involved in other processes. Just let's follow that. A bit with a 0, we minimize all the changes again to come back to space to see where the things really are, not according to our point, to a point, but to all the points, and go only to the point that matters in the connections that we make. In a way, this anticipation also has letters. The total effect of these letters are actually 2 letters in my system. And these are the 2 last letters in the system. It's the I or I and S. I is what I want, and the S is what it brings. It's a little bit like the green light, what I want. It's that this is what I want to bring in, and the S is what it will bring. That's what it really will bring. And the balance between that, if the balance is 0, you have a perfect anticipation, and then you have is, then it can be neutral. It is. The E and the S are equal, so they can be, everything can be itself. And with the is, you can do something what you want to do with it at that point. So we go once more, last time, to all the sections of what we meet in anticipation by trying to catch the mice. So with a steady object, we only can try to estimate its position. And the result will also be that we will estimate what can be used from it and what can be not, and what can be how well our estimation is, and how off we are at our estimation. And if we want, if we have to engage even more aspects to make the estimation better. So of course the goal is itself with A is the estimation itself with some expectation. The T is what can I use from it, and the K will be the result of the reality itself. And the reality will always be that your estimation for part will fail. And that's the general rule of space. Your estimations are estimations only on fixed objects. But the objects are not fixed, so we're always a little bit off. So you have to adapt, and that's why your learning process of A will adapt to the changes. If you want it or not, you have to change. If you don't change, the K will break apart the A. It will break apart your starting point because it's already off, and your starting point will break off as well. Or you can follow. You have to make your A neutral, and then starts to follow what is changing. So everything of spatial reference has to become neutral before we follow the changes. And when we follow the changes, it's no longer experiencing the fail. It is seeing what is happening here. I follow the changes. It's no longer negative, it becomes positive. So, because we connect ourselves to what it needs, to what is changing, and we try to grasp what is changing. So that's the next level of understanding. It's also of understanding the world, and this set of order that is set into the letters are also about the same things. They are about growth, and you have to grow, you have to connect yourself, you have to follow the changes. It's needed, and it's also requested. Sometimes in language you have a signal. Here is the session and the section of change, follow it. And thanks to that, instead of what is being simply different, that can even break things apart, we try to estimate its changes in Y. Instead of looking for what we can use, we can look at what can be of use, what can we use longer in D. And instead of A, what we want, what we follow, what we know, we follow simply what is there to follow, what is there longer than even our own ideas, what does exist longer. It's the content of N. We follow what has its own progression, and we follow these things. These are all part of changes. These letters that are connected with it are connected into the same system of order into the same level of order, into the same level of associations. It's not easy to explain everything always the whole time and to make you grasp what it's all involved in there and what it all brings with it. In some way, it's not much more than a connection in the limitations that are connected with the mathematical truths about it. So the mathematical truth is simply it is changing, and what is changing, and what are changes in what involvement are involved when something is in changing, what is changing together. In a way, it's all quite simple as well. So we think that we can follow the changes when we see the connections. When we see the connections, we see what it is changing and so on. So in a way, we also have a way to follow the connections and see where the changes are occurring. So once we can estimate it, we think we can have our mice. But of course the mice has a mind of its own, and it will anticipate into the patterns of changes, into what it's all connected, and it will do things that are quite out of the ordinary. It will make things more difficult. It will be impossible to keep track of multiplications of changes of movement. So we need to anticipate to this world into a different set of motions and interactions, and the interactions are a separate space of movement that we move along, we ourselves move along, change along, adapt along, so that there is as little as friction as possible, as little as movement as possible, so that we can find the 0 points of connection. So I will go to the letters that fit to that. So you have to have as much change as the mice changed in all 3 dimensions. We have to adapt the same way in all these 3 dimensions in exactly the opposite direction, so that we will catch it during its changes. And the letters that participate in it exist in the system as well, are the Q, V and G, and there will be the matches where there will be as little changes as possible, because we participate in its changes. With the Q, you anticipate to all its changes of position. With G, instead of focusing on what you can use, or the general use with the D, what you can still use to have some success overall, we simply see its usage. With the G, we see where it's used for, we see its purpose. That's the coordination that we see. So what is its purpose, and then we can estimate that part already. With the V, it's also a different level of seeing how reality exists. In the beginning, it was different from us. With the K, we only knew what was different. With the Y, we know how different it was, in which direction it was going. And this is about the diagonal, but we can also simply follow its changes in the Q. That's the next part. So you can follow its changes. The V was on the horizontal plane. So where did we start from? We started from the A. We simply follow, or try to follow everything what exists, what we see, and so on. That's the A. If changes happen, we can still follow it on time and see what we can follow and what is participating and so on. This is the end. This is the continuation and content that is changing, and we follow that part. And the V is even more neutral in its vision. It is seeing what was that again? I still remember that it is about the materials, the purposes, everything which is continuously going has a goal of its own. You really don't know if you will succeed in the end in these 3 dimensions of focus, but at least you, at the end of the day, when you follow the least friction, you know what it's meant for. So it's just realization with G. You know that there is an anticipation in the process with Q, whether it is meant for you or it's not meant for you. With V, you will know that can you still continue to follow it, or is it meant for somewhere else? Is it continuing somewhere else? And then you just leave the situation. It's no longer something for you. That's more or less all the letters that are there, and when the 2 purposes, what you want to use, E, and what is of usage with S, participate in one new goal, whatever direction that will go, it simply will be is. It will is what it is. And you can leave it as it is after that. So you do the attack, you will go for the catch, and if it's not meant for this time, okay, it found a different way, and that's it. This eagle will not mind if it fails. It will not cry the whole day. It will just leave the things as they are. But it sees the thing how they are. Because they are what they are, it is what it is at the end of the day. Something like that. Anyhow, this video was meant to give a resume of the 3 ways of thinking of your mind, of a perception in space. There are in space 3 sorts of references. First on the fixed object, then on the moving object, and the last category is that something or someone or you have to change your focus and you move towards it. And if you do so and anticipate well, you just leave the things as they are, and you see the things as they are. And in the whole process of these 9 kinds of phases that you can have there, with all of its letter, it's 27 positions also that you can have there. You know how much each object is there in its own world, and how much it is appearing, and how much it is showing itself in the physical world, in the moving world, or in the anticipating world, and you anticipate accordingly. And that's what language is expressing. It's expressing itself in these 3 times 3 kinds of spatial references. And that was this video about. Anyhow, I hope it was not too difficult anymore. The theoretical videos are not really that successful, but at least I give you the information and do it what you want. Anyhow, thanks for watching. This was Gerald Van Was. There's a website too where you have the videos, all of it that I made before, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to keep yourself updated with different angles or more ideas or different demonstrations. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Bye bye.